Ladies and gentlemen, no one can watch a film such as the one we just saw and not be moved. I've had my share of wars in my life, but such brutality directed against innocent men, women, is something that one cannot accept. In this so-called civilized world, man's inhumanity to man is something that is hard to understand. I would like to offer my personal and sincere condolences to the people of Camp Ashraf and to all the families who have lost loved ones in the struggle. And I think that there are some basic facts that we must now recognize and acknowledge. The first one, in my view, and this is a personal view, is the attack on 8 April could have been and should have been prevented. The second is that this attack was clearly deliberate, calculated, and authorized by the government of Iraq. Third is that the international response was certainly too little and too late. And finally, it must never, ever happen again. Now is the time to prepare. In the shorter term, we must ask ourselves some difficult questions. How best to guarantee the security for the people of Camp Ashraf? How to complete delisting of the MEK? We are not alone in thinking that this must be done. Momentum for such a change is growing steadily at a great rate. Ashraf and the people of Ashraf now deserve and will get a global focus. It is time for the United Nations to conduct an independent investigation of this atrocity that we witnessed at Camp Ashraf. Iraqi brutality and flagrant disregard for human rights are now a matter of record. The U.S. will not be surprised a second time. Having protected the people of Camp Ashraf from 2003 to 2006, so-called terrorist listed organization at the time, reveals a contradiction on our policy that should be revisited, and it should be revisited now. It cannot be that Iran and the United States agree on what is and what is not a terrorist organization. So 3 quick points in closing. The first is that there is no choice here. We should delist the MEK, and we should clear up this ambiguity in our policy. And also, we should link ourselves to the future of the people of Camp Ashraf and their protection. Secondly, we should never allow a repetition of the attack on Camp Ashraf and its residents. We should condemn such attacks consistently and globally whenever we see them about to happen. 3, ladies and gentlemen, this may be the beginning of the Arab Spring, but in my view, it's also the beginning of the Iranian regime's winter. Let us all work together to bring about a Palestinian spring. The world will be all the better for it, and the people of Iran deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First, let me offer my condolences as my heart goes out with all of you to those families who lost loved ones, many of whom who are pictured on that board over there. I couldn't help thinking how ironic it was that I was sitting next to a survivor of the Holocaust. I could not help but think of how ironic it was that when I read my history books of World War II and the Holocaust, and when I read Elie Wiesel's Night and Dawn, when I read history when people said never again, that I am sitting watching those horrifying images alongside a man who has seen the ultimate in the disregard of humanity in his lifetime. I've said it before, when Martin Niemöller spoke about the Holocaust, he said, first they came for the Jews, and I was not a Jew, so I did not speak out. And then they came for the gypsies, and I was not a gypsy, so I did not speak out. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I wasn't a trade unionist, so I did not speak out. And then they came, and they came, and then they came for me, and no one was left to speak out. How did this happen? Well, Elie Wiesel will tell you how it happens, but I will tell you how I think this happened. Instead of calling Ashrafis human beings, we called them terrorists. Then it makes it possible for you to attack them. It's time we delist the people of Ashraf as terrorists. We need to make our friends with Madam Rajavi and the PMOI, who have made their enemy the mullahs in Iran. When is it going to be the case in the United States where we finally support the very people who support freedom, when we finally support the very people who support human rights, where we finally support the people who want a separation of church and state and respect for women in society? When are we going to finally support Madam Rajavi and the MEK and PMOI as the future for Iran?
Madam Rajavi, I want to say what a privilege and pleasure it is for me to be here with you, with this distinguished panel, and with these wonderful people who are so committed to freedom and justice and liberty and human dignity. Thank you. I want to say what a terrible, shocking, emotional tape that is to me as a soldier. Those are war crimes. Those are war crimes. They must be reported. The International Criminal Court must take action and hold accountable under law those who ordered it and committed it. I believe the United Nations should come in under its responsibility to protect and take a serious role in resolving this issue of protection for the people of Ashraf. I've known about Camp Ashraf for a long time. I've known about the MEK, the PMOI, for a long time. Because this organization was the first, really, that resisted Khomeini and the excesses that followed the downfall of the Shah. I followed it through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. But the world didn't. This tragedy, this massacre, this war crime at Camp Ashraf was a huge mistake for the Iranian government, because now the world will see Camp Ashraf. I'll tell you what I learned as a soldier, that weapons of war are terrible, they kill people, they maim, they're awful, but there's nothing more powerful than an idea held with conviction in the hearts of men and women. I believe you in this movement have that idea, and there's nothing that will beat you if you hold on to it. They're still seeking hegemony, but they've made a huge mistake with Camp Ashraf, because the spirit, the determination, the organization that you have, that you've nurtured all these years, can be the seed that grows and grows and grows, that strengthens outside Iran and inside Iran, that builds on the sacrifice, courage, and commitment of those at Camp Ashraf, and does create an alternative to that government of the mullahs in Tehran. You can do that. And I look at you in this crowd and those I've met in Washington and the Iranian American community in the United States. I look at your passion, your commitment, your courage, and I ask, why wouldn't the world support you as you seek to bring standards of human decency and human rights back to Iran? Why wouldn't they support you? I think they will, and I think they must. I think the State Department's reconsidering the foreign terrorist organization listing. I think they will. I think they must. I'm a military man. I know what's waiting for the government of Tehran if they proceed with their effort to gain nuclear weapons. I know what's waiting. Every president of the United States has said no nuclear weapons for Iran.